A lot of people are talking about a new art renaissance nowadays, but is that really what God's up to, or is there something larger going on? Well, we're going to jump into this today here on 5 Minute Mentoring. Have you ever wanted to have someone in your life who you could ask real questions about your art, your business, and even your walk with the Lord? Well, that's exactly what we do every Friday here on 5 Minute Mentoring, where I answer one question from one of my awesome podcast listeners in order to help you start really thriving as the artist you know God created you to be. Well, hey there, my friend. I'm so glad that you're with me today here on 5 Minute Mentoring. A lot of people are talking about this whole idea that, man, something is happening with artists and art all over the world. I know for, at least 10 years, I've been talking about, God raising up this army of artists. I've been so privileged now to connect with others that are feeling and sensing that same thing all over the world. Leaders in ministry, leaders in the arts. It's really, really cool to see, a focus begin to come back on creativity and the beauty of God and releasing his nature into the earth. It's really, really awesome. There is this fresh wind, if you will, that's blowing all over the world. And, for many artists, it's brought kind of this new vitality, resurgence of buyers, and even the opportunity to grow their businesses through a lot of new technology tools and through technology platforms, new ideas and that sort of thing. But as wonderful as all that is, and believe me, I love to sell art as much as anybody, all right? There's a question that's always on my heart, and it's, Lord, what are you doing? Is there something larger going on? Well, during this kind of current resurgence of the arts, I believe that God's highlighting artists in our work and our creative process really for a much, much larger purpose. All right. He's not just interested in raising up more talented artists or better marketers. All right. This move of God right now all over the earth is not just about creating great art or making money as an end in itself. Although, listen, both of those things can absolutely be the fruit of following God's lead. I believe that he's waking up the hearts of artists and drawing us into wholeness and transforming our minds and raising up this army of creative sons and daughters who know who they are and who know who and what they're called to in the kingdom. And listen, that is really the huge thing that I believe God's up to. It's like this tidal wave of creativity in our generation, but to just see it as a simple renaissance that is kind of a re-interest or a resurgence of, oh yeah, everybody's into art right now, or everybody's into creativity, or wow, this is a really great chance to start making a living with your art. I think we miss the central focus of what God's trying to do. It's interesting when you look back at the Renaissance that we think about, in the Middle Ages. When you think about the Renaissance, there were really three main philosophies that emerged during and after, or as a result of, rather, the Renaissance. One was humanism, right? It was this kind of idea that man is the center of the universe, that everything revolves around us, all right? And so people really started creating art around that, literature around that, thought around that. The second was this whole idea of patronage. And again, that artists were protected and supported by both religious and regional institutions and the wealthy. Now, obviously, that's got a good side to it and a bad side to it, all right? It can really be a wonderful thing, but it can also be a big, big frustration. And then the third thing that I think about when I think of the Renaissance and the results of the Renaissance was really this idea that began to happen later of art for art's sake, which is, art is a complete end in itself, that it doesn't need anything else. It doesn't need the inspiration of God. It doesn't need purpose. It just is beautiful because it is, and that's enough. All right. Well, listen, the interesting thing is when you think about the Renaissance is that these three systems kind of form the basis of how most artists approach their work in business, Christian artists included, right? Even today, all right? And it goes like this. It's kind of like, I'm going to pursue my artistic expression because that's who I am. I'm going to make it all about my desire, my want, my talent, my expression. I got to do my thing, all this kind of thing. And then I got to find other people who will support me through donations and grants and sales and that sort of thing. And, for some people that works, but I don't know anybody that's worked for long term and in a stable kind of way over a lifetime. And for many, it doesn't work, resulting in what we know as the starving artist mentality on one side and kind of a success focused art marketer on the other side, not really able to find that balance. And like I said, the whole thing of patronage, I think the ugly side of patronage during the Renaissance and even today is that the artist becomes dependent on and was at the mercy of the patron rather than a healthy identity in the Lord and their identity being seated and grounded in Him. And then you add to that, all the complications of that dynamic, with being tied to art that only you're doing because it sells, relationships with patrons that you may not be crazy about, but they're giving you money, so you got to stay in relationship with them. I mean, you're kind of a slave to the market or to the latest marketing trend. And again, you're in a really, really frustrated place. See, in this season, in what God's doing now, and again, I've been saying this for 10 years or more. I've been standing on the shoulders of men and women who have been saying this for years and years. God is raising up an army of artists, but I believe that He's using this renaissance right now, this resurgence, if you will, of interest in the arts in order to lead us to revival and also to really thriving in His kingdom. He's raising up this army of artists who are not going to be focused on, patronage and art for art's sake and this whole thing of humanism, putting ourselves at the center. But He's raising up an army of artists who are Jesus-centered, who are Christ-centric, believing that the reason that we've been given, the gift that we've been given is for His glory, all right? That we've been healed and restored. And as we center our lives and our desires and our creative expression in Him, He's glorified and He releases His light and life and transformative presence through us. The other thing that's really core, I believe, in this army of artists that God's raising up is what I call kingdom provision. Again, instead of patronage, relying on a marketing technique or relying on a certain clientele or a certain buyer or a certain person or organization to support us, we start to realize that God alone is our provider and that through the marketplace and of course other means, He reveals where we harvest our provision in line with our assignment as artists. Again, He's the source, right? So He's the one that's bringing the ideas. He's the one that's bringing the clients. He's the one that's bringing the divine connections. And as we're faithful with little, God makes us ruler over much. That's just the way the kingdom works. So we're Jesus-centered. We're kingdom focused in our understanding of provision. And then also we realize that our art is not just for art's sake, but it has a purpose, a transformative purpose, that we realize that our art and our creativity is this beautiful vehicle through which God uses both us as the artists and also our work in order to release His transformative power and bring people to Him. Listen, that is where, when we're focused on those things, that's where we start to see lasting success and this grace in our life to really, really grow. As an artist myself for as long as I can remember, and somebody who's had the great privilege of walking with thousands upon thousands of artists all over the world in these last few years, I know this. Artists who seek the transformative power of God in the context of their life and their art and their business will always experience more lasting success than those who simply seek after the latest artistic fads or business trends or latest marketing techniques. And again, artists who center their art and business in their relationship with God, we are the ones, I'll say, who have the grace to grow and to mature over the long term, building what, I love this, when in Proverbs, it says that the blessing of the Lord brings wealth without sorrow. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see a bunch of drama and craziness in my life. I don't want to see me starting a bunch of ideas out of my own strength and then having to maintain that. I want to be blessed by God and walk in the fullness of what He has for me. See, when God shows up, that's when my art is changed. That's when my life is changed. That's when my business is changed. That's when the world is changed through me, because I say yes to being a part of that process. Well, my friend, I hope that that's your heart too. I hope that that's why you're listening to this podcast. I hope that this is resonating with you inside your heart. And listen, if it is, I want to invite you to be a part of our Artist Rise Up Masterclass. I'm going to be diving into this issue and a whole lot more inside a 5-day masterclass that I'm going to be doing starting on September the 22nd. Now, you can jump in anytime before then. In fact, the link is right here in the show notes. When you do, you can join the private Facebook group that's for all the participants of the masterclass. We're going to be doing an art challenge while we're in there, creating together, getting to know each other, sharing the journey of not only art, but also artists who love Jesus and share our faith together and grow together in all that God's got for us. It's going to be a really, really great time, and I'd love for you to be there. So listen, make sure that you sign up for that, all right? You can do it right in the link that's here in the show notes. Doesn't cost a thing, and we'd love, love, love to have you with us beginning on September the 22nd. But like I said, you can join right now and get in the good stuff, all right? And jump in the group before we get started, all right? Well, hey, my friend, I love you very much. Thanks for being on the podcast with me today. Remember, until I see you again, you were created to thrive. All right, bye-bye.